And with little over a week to go until Congress is back in session, our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez will join us in studio to preview the most pressing matters lawmakers will address in the last sprint before the general election. Luis, great to have you here with us. If you could, tell us, what is Congress's most pressing matter when they go back into session September 9th?
Of course, great to be here in studio. So lawmakers go back into session September 9th. They're going to have 22 days until October 1st to reach an agreement to fund government through 2025. Let's remember that it was the funding process last year that provoked Speaker McCarthy to lose his job when the right flank of the Republican Party voted against him. And then Speaker Mike Johnson promised that he would lead an appropriations process as it's stipulated by law, 12 appropriation bills separately. But this year for 2025, they've passed 6 appropriation bills and then they hit a roadblock. So House Republicans were not able to pass the legislative branch appropriation bill and then just pulled the plug on the entire process. Now, House appropriators are proposing a continuing resolution. So they would continue the same budget as last year within, of course, the 1% limit of increase in budget. So it gets interesting because 22 days is not a long time for House Republicans, House Democrats to reach an agreement and then pass the ball to the Senate.
So, Luis, what are some of the main obstacles in passing this continuing resolution, and what policy riders do you think we could see each attach or try to attach to convince some of those lawmakers who are opposed to a CR?
Of course. Well, on the Republican side, you'd have the right flank of the Republican Party that are most likely to oppose a continuing resolution. That's your House Freedom Caucus members most likely will oppose a continuing resolution because they want to see government budget decrease. For example, the State Department Foreign Operations Appropriations bills that did pass by House Republicans reduced budget by 10%. So those Republicans will probably also want to see, if they're going to see a continuing resolution, they want to see the SAVE Act included in this continuing resolution. The SAVE Act was a legislation that passed in the House the first week of July with the support of 5 Democrats, and that would require proof of citizenship for voter registration. On the Democrat side, we will most likely see Democrats push to include in a continuing resolution the $4 billion request by President Biden to help rebuild the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland, that collapsed earlier this year.
And Luis, what can you tell us about the House Freedom Caucus in the race to become the next leader of that caucus, and how is that ultimately looking?
Well, okay, of course, we need to remember that Chairman Bob Good of the House Freedom Caucus lost his primary race against State Senator McGuire for Virginia's 5th District. The reason he lost was mostly because former President Donald Trump endorsed his opponent. The reason being that Chairman Bob Good last year endorsed Ron DeSantis as a presidential candidate for the Republican primary. So now there's a race for a new chairman for the House Freedom Caucus, and we have Andy Ogles, freshman Republican from Tennessee, eyeing the position, but he has a little setback. The FBI is probing him on a campaign finance investigation. They actually took his phones last month, so that will probably come up if he runs for the chairmanship. Then we also have Chip Roy from Texas, but he has the same problem as Chairman Bob Good. Last year, he endorsed Ron DeSantis during the Republican primary. And then lastly, one of the names that is floating around is Andy Harris, Maryland 1st District, the one Republican in Maryland, but he's a House appropriator, so you'll probably see some House Republicans not be convinced that he will go against leadership if he's also in the House Appropriations Committee. So it will be interesting to see also who former President Donald Trump backs once the candidates are out and about.
Really fascinating stuff, some palace intrigue, if you will. We'll be keeping an eye on it. Luis Martinez, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
And former President Trump is in Pennsylvania this evening, rounding out the week in another critical swing state. NTD Washington correspondent Jack Bradley is on the ground with more.
I'm here at the First Summit Arena in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where a lot of Trump supporters are gathering to listen to him speak here. Now, Pennsylvania is a swing state and the largest electoral college count of any swing state, so it's a very important state in this general election here. I spoke to Dan Muser, the congressman from Pennsylvania, about why winning Pennsylvania is so important and how Trump can reach undecided voters here. Take a look.
President Trump is here because we need the central Pennsylvania to come out and vote.
If Trump is elected, what are you looking forward to most when he comes into office?
secure border, gasoline prices going back to $2.20 a gallon, maybe even lower, as we move towards energy dominance, and then trade initiatives that allow us to sell our food and our manufacturing in a highly competitive way overseas, that we truly have a boom in American manufacturing. People have prosperity, people have patriotism. We stop these wars from Russia to Ukraine to the Middle East conflicts. This is going to be resolved. He did it once, he's going to do it again.
I also spoke to a diehard Trump supporter and delegate from California, San Diego to be particular, about why he's supporting Trump. In particular, the southern border has seen a lot of problems in San Diego, and he pointed out that it's actually affecting California's housing prices. Take a look.
It's so important to support him right now. I never envisioned that my support would be at this level, because frankly, I never envisioned there would be such a need for him at this time. He should have already been in office. The border, which is my most important issue, should have already been taken care of. The number one way the crisis at the border has impacted me and everyone else in America is really the housing costs. Housing costs are super high because a lot of competition for places to live, because we have millions of extra people in our country who don't belong here, living in homes that Americans should be in.
Now, while campaigning in other key swing states in Michigan and Wisconsin on Thursday prior to the Pennsylvania rally, Trump said that he's emphasizing a more pro-family approach to policy, including providing tax cuts for new parents with newborns expenses paid, as well as mandated IVF treatment. He will mandate insurance companies to cover the costs of in vitro fertilization treatment. Now, this is a really controversial topic, especially among Republicans, as a lot of them, including Catholics, their religious beliefs don't support IVF treatment. Harris has said that Trump will issue a nationwide abortion ban if elected. When asked in an interview earlier this week if Trump supports Florida's 6-week abortion ban, Trump said that there needs to be more weeks. It's too short. Trump and Harris will be hosting their first presidential debate together on September 10th in Philadelphia, so a lot to look forward to there. Reporting from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Jack Bradley, NTD News.
And following a rally in Pennsylvania, Trump heading to Washington, D.C. this evening, where he'll speak at the Moms for Liberty Summit. We're happy to be joined by Tina Descovich, who's the co-founder of Moms for Liberty. Tina Descovich, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me this morning.
It's great to have you, Tina. So tonight at 8 p.m., former President Trump will be giving a speech at the Moms for Liberty Summit. What are some of the policies that you are expecting him to lay out tonight in front of your organization?
The number one thing we are hoping that President Trump will discuss with us is how to start dismantling the United States Department of Education and returning education to where it really belongs, back to states and ultimately to parents and community members and to the local communities and school boards.
So, Tina, I think some, parents that are busy taking their children to soccer practice and, getting ready to feed their kids probably aren't really sure as to why that would be an important thing to do, and they might be afraid to hear of such things. Explain why this is such an important thing for you guys.
One of the most amazing things about the education system in America is it is unique. There are very few countries around the world where parents get to say what is taught to their children. That is the fundamental right that's given to us to direct the upbringing of our children, and that includes their education. In other countries, whoever's the head of state, that could be a king or a president, a prime minister, they select, them and their department and their administration select what's taught in schools, what policies are going to run their education system, what books basically are going to be taught, and they push it down to more local leaders. They hire principals of schools, they hire teachers, and so what they say goes. In America, it doesn't matter what the President of the United States wants taught in public education. What matters is what parents want in local communities. We really need to protect the way we were set up, the way we were structured to do that, because what's being taught in Chicago isn't necessarily what parents in the middle of a rural area in Wyoming want taught.
To your point, this election could ultimately be determined by suburban moms in some of these swing states. Are the concerns about education coming from both sides of the aisle?
Absolutely. We've done national polling that shows parents of all persuasions, all races, all ethnicities, all religions, you name it, Democrat, Republicans, independents, pro-choice, pro-life voters, 70 to 80% of them, depending on which poll you use, agree with us on the major issues of schools need to get back to the basics. Schools need to do a better job teaching. Gender ideology should not be taught in elementary school. There's about 7 or 8 questions in there that we continuously fight for that are polling that high.
And Tina, what are some of the key differences in parental rights and education that a Trump or Harris administration would ultimately bring?
There is a very clear distinction in this presidential race between the two candidates and the administration that's currently in power and what President Trump would bring to the table. A Harris Walz ticket is the most anti-parent ticket that you could ever imagine. The policies he has put in place as governor infringe on parental rights. He supports the most radical ideologies. And then you have the President Trump ticket. He has signed our parental rights pledge. He has pledged publicly from stage and on a piece of paper that he has signed that he will work with parents to defend their parental rights, that we have the right to direct the upbringing of our children. So it's just night and day.
I'm assuming one of those policies you're referencing is, as governor of Minnesota, Governor Walz, allowing the minors to transition without parents' parental consent. With that said, the nation's largest teachers union, National Education Association, is backing Kamala Harris for president. Does this help her appeal to parents?
It does not. 80% of parents are with us. Parents don't want policies that their kids can go to school and be transitioned even socially, but definitely not get to the point where they can take puberty blockers and do lifelong damage to themselves when they're not even legally allowed to go get a tattoo or their ears pierced without parental permission. A government entity that allows minors to make decisions that will impact their ability to procreate with these puberty blockers and then ultimately surgeries. Parents don't want that.
Tina Descovich, co-founder Moms for Liberty, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.